Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in time and space. Welcome to Just the Word TV, and thank you for joining our daily morning devotion. This channel is built on one mission to help you hear what God actually said, not tradition and just the word. So, over the past few days, we've been discussing Proverbs and looking at Proverbs with the intention of understanding wisdom. And so far, we've understood wisdom as something that is personified, something that is living within you, and it's something that is going to bridge. It's the bridge. It's the gap connector between knowledge and you. Right. And we've come to the understanding that when we approach knowledge or we try to use knowledge without the proper wisdom built within us yet, it only causes chaos. And this is evident after Adam and Eve has eaten of the apple. They after Adam and Eve have eaten of the apple, looking at chapters 4 and 5, Genesis chapter 4 and 5, you see how when mankind decides to just take knowledge for themselves without the proper wisdom, the type of chaos that starts to unfold on the earth itself. Why God had to come and basically wash away the entire earth itself. So we're just moving forward into it, and we're moving forward into Proverbs chapter 4, right? And with Proverbs chapter 4, it provides a glimpse into how Solomon viewed his own education. In this text, he is not speaking merely as a king, but as a son who listened to his father, King David. The chapter emphasizes that wisdom is generational. It is meant to be learned and inherited, not invented by the individual. The Hebrew words found in this passage reveal that wisdom is multifaceted. It involves discipline, discernment, practical skill, and an intentional pursuit. The main idea of this section is straightforward. Wisdom shapes your character and determines the path of your life. So we're gonna go through verses 1 to 12. I don't plan to make today's devotion too lengthy. Today is Thanksgiving and I am very tired and I would like to get some sleep so that later on I can have all the energy that I can possibly need to eat as much food as I possibly can later on. So we're gonna try to get through this quickly and get back to the regular scheduled programming tomorrow for Black Friday. So, verses 1 and 2. Verse 1 opens with the command, Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. The word translated as instruction is the Hebrew word musar. This term implies more than just information. It refers to discipline, correction, and character formation. It suggests that learning requires a willingness to be corrected. The word for understanding is binah, which refers to discernment or the ability to distinguish between things clearly. Verse 2, Solomon states, For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. Wisdom starts with the attitude of the student. To gain wisdom, one must be teachable and willing to be shaped by instruction. Verses 3 and 4. Solomon reflects on his upbringing in verse 3, noting he was his father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. In verse 4, he explained that David taught me and said unto me, Let thine heart retain not my words, keep my commandments, and live. The concept of teaching here is rooted in the Hebrew word yirah, which means to throw, shoot, or aim like an arrow. This indicates that wisdom is about this direction. David taught Solomon by pointing his life towards a specific target. So this exchange shows that wisdom is transferred through relationship and guidance. It is a directional force that keeps a person aiming at the right goals. Now you're looking at this and saying, all right, well, David, I'm sorry, Solomon learned from his father David, whatever it might be. Cool, 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 cool. This instruction, this instructor instructee type of relationship can only happen if the instructor is actually walking with God. Therefore, when seeking wisdom, right? There has to be some type of discernment on picking the right teacher. Or let me put it this way, not you picking the right teacher, discerning the teacher that God has sent for you, right? Because this person has this instructor has to be, you have to make sure they are walking with God, because then what gets transferred is not the wisdom of God, but the wisdom of mankind. And we don't want that wisdom because the wisdom of mankind likes to touch knowledge and likes to use knowledge with the proper wisdom, or they like to use knowledge with their own man-created wisdom. So very important that we make sure that we are discerning who is teaching us. We're discerning the instructor in which we are allowing to pour into us, allowing to transfer into us. We always want to make sure that the instructor is walking with God's wisdom. So now verses from 4 to 7. And now this is talking about the pursuit of wisdom. Instruction continues in verse 5 with the directive to get wisdom and get understanding. And the word get here from the Hebrew word means to acquire, purchase, or take ownership. This implies an aggressive pursuit. One must seek wisdom as if making a significant transaction to own it fully. And then verse 7 states, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Principal thing here translates from rishith, which meaning the beginning or the foundation. The word for wisdom, chokmah, refers to skill in living. So it's not an abstract theory, but the practical skill needed to navigate life. Solomon argues that this skill is the necessary foundation for a stable existence. And now verses 8 and 9 describe the results of prioritizing wisdom. Verse 8 says, exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor when thou embrace her. Now, Solomon is not talking about a woman here. Remember, if we're going through not verses, we're going through chapters 1, 2, and 3. And especially in chapter one, wisdom is personified as a woman. Wisdom is personified as something living. And she is something that is living within you. And it's something that has to be developed so that you understand that it's living within you. The word exalt here is rum, crazy, meaning to lift up. When you lift wisdom up as a priority, it lifts you up in return. It brings honor or kavod in Hebrew. Kavod literally means weight or heaviness. In the social context, it means having weight, credibility, or substance. Then verse 9 adds that wisdom will give a crown of glory, and this symbolizes visible dignity. A life built on wisdom results in a reputation that carries weight, respect, and good character. And now for verses 10 to 11, the type of path, basically, it talks about the type of paths that wisdom will place you on, the type of path that places you on. Verse 10, Solomon says, hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. He continues in verse 11, I have taught thee in the way of wisdom, I have led thee in the right paths. The phrase right paths comes from the word yasher, meaning straight or upright. This conveys that it conveys the image of a level road rather than a crooked or rugged trail. Wisdom leads to stability and safety. It removes the unnecessary complexity of a deceitful life and places the individual on a predictable, safe trajectory. It reduces detours and self-inflicted problems. And for the final verse for today's devotion, verse 12, the section concludes with verse 12. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be strained. And when thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. The word strained comes from the Hebrew word sar, which is spelled Tsar, meaning narrow, restricted, or pressured. Solomon is stating that wisdom provides freedom of movement. You are not backed into a corner by bad choices. And what does that particularly mean, backed into a corner by bad choices? I don't know if anyone was looking at the devotion yesterday, but when you are living with wisdom, you don't have to worry about the upkeep of lies. You don't have to worry about any deceitful things. There's a whole bunch of things you stop having to worry about, and especially with bad choices, you don't have to worry about the consequences of making bad choices because wisdom. Not only is it going to take that bad choice and teach you something, but it's going to make sure that you don't have to go through that bad choice again. Or when you are presented with that position or that situation again, you're able to make a better decision this time, right? So the great thing about wisdom, it protects us from the choices, the bad choices that human nature tends to make when presented with knowledge. So the promise that you will not stumble uses the word kashal, which means to trip or totter. Wisdom gives the foresight to see obstacles before you hit them. It removes pressure, it clears your sight, and prevents the falls that occur when people lack direction. So a quick summary of, chapter 4 from verses 1 to 12. First and foremost, wisdom requires discipline and pursuit. Right, so it requires that we become disciples. What we see here in in chapter 4, Proverbs chapter 4 from verses 1 to 12, it shows the fact that Solomon was able to, was willing to become a disciple under his father David. Right, and I made this particular insight, or said this particular insight earlier, that we have to make sure that when we are receiving instruction, that we look at the character of the instructor. We have to make sure that the character of the instructor is of wisdom, of God's wisdom, and not of their own wisdom that they have cultivated through years of experience. Because what ends up happening is, again, human nature, when it touches knowledge without the proper wisdom, ends up creating chaos. Also, thinking about it, maybe that's the reason why, in the beginning, right, when God, in verses in chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1 verses 2, right, the earth was basically without form and it was void, basically pointing to the fact that it was a earth that maybe, I'm just theorizing here, maybe this was an earth, or a prelude to the fact that the earth was created, things happened, but it didn't have any type of form. It didn't have any type of structure. It didn't have a good structure to where it had a proper foundation to work off of. So that's why it started to go into chaos. I guess getting to this particular point, I guess you need some type of structure, a stable structure, because if you don't have a stable structure, all you're going to do is create chaos. Chaos is a lover of unstructured, unorganized. It does not like to be kept in a particular place. It likes to be free. It likes to move around, right? Chaos likes to bump around and bump back and forth, bump back and forth. And when you introduce structure, it removes that ability for chaos to start bumping around and going back and forth and doing whatever it wants to do, right? Because if something has no form, it has no structure, it has no type of direction, it has no type of no footing, meaning that it can just blow and just go everywhere, every which way it wants to go. And that's what chaos loves. It loves the ability that it can go in and out of particular things. And with structure, you're creating a boundary, you're creating a type of foundation, you're creating a structure, you're creating a fortress, right? And in that fortress, you are building something, and you're not allowing chaos to just come rampant into your life, out in and out of your life. There's structure there, and the structure is there so that you can learn to keep chaos at bay. You're not destroying chaos. Chaos is never going to be something that you destroy. It is something like, I guess, a form of chaos control in a sense. Next insight that we gain, just to summarize, wisdom develops skill, stability, and clarity. Thus making sure that when you're walking, you don't have to worry about the consequences of bad choices. You don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about lying to this particular person, because wisdom keeps your integrity. It keeps your mind cleared. It keeps your mind focused on what you need to focus on. Next, wisdom establishes the foundation that shapes the rest of your life. So, like David, like the Hebrew word was saying before, David wasn't just imparting wisdom into Solomon. He was basically setting him up, putting him on, let's say Solomon is an arrow. Let's say we're all arrows, and we're put on a bow. And what David was doing is making sure, as he was pulling back that bow, he's putting Solomon in a particular direction. So when he releases that bow, Solomon is in the direction towards the path of God, towards the path of wisdom, towards the path of attaining wisdom itself. And finally, when you walk in wisdom, you walk with confidence, honor, and steady direction. The main thing, and I love seeing this on people. I love seeing it. I love seeing it. When you've gained some type of wisdom, when you gain truth about yourself, especially for me, I understood that I didn't have to be a people pleaser. I didn't have to go beyond and extend myself to the point of exhaustion, and I can't even help myself anymore. No. It presents a type of confidence that you can walk in, right? You don't understand the type of confidence I feel, or the type of freedom I feel, knowing that I don't have to overextend myself, right? Excuse me. You don't understand the freedom that I feel, that I don't have to go far and beyond to do anything of that sort. And I feel I walk in this sense of confidence now, knowing that I know the truth. I understand the truth. And that's the type of thing that wisdom is going to get you to understand. Is going to get you to the point of where you're understanding the truth about who you are as a person, who you are as a man of God, who you are as a woman of God. And like I'll tell a lot of you, there's some people I need to tell them, like, listen, um, I don't know what you're doing. I'm assuming that is the grace of God. I'm assuming that is the wisdom of God. But the confidence looks amazing on you. Keep it up, right? That's what happens when you continue to walk in wisdom. You're building that confidence. That becomes a fruit. It becomes a indirect fruit, and it doesn't become a confidence that becomes arrogant. It becomes a confidence rooted in the fact that you serve a God that is imparting some type of wisdom in you that is alive and living. And you're walking with the full confidence, knowing that no matter what is thrown in your way, you can handle it because God has given you the character and God has given you a living type of character that is in you that you only need to understand and develop. So until next time, everyone, I ask that you stay grounded, I ask that you stay humbled, and above all else, stay aligned with just the word. Thank you.